Angus, thank you so much again for coming into Clan. It's lovely to see you back here. We've spoke about this already, but I wonder, just for the purposes of the interview, if you could just tell me about your diagnosis and take us back to that stage in your life, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so I don't mind speaking about it. It's, you know, something that's been a big part of my life and my journey. So before the diagnosis, I'd actually had a previous blood clot when I was at Hull, got picked up. So after all of that sort of happened, I then went through investigation and tests to why I was having a blood clot in my leg, why I was having these sort of symptoms. And that's when I sort of went in for regular colonoscopies, because at the time I was dealing with colitis as well. And it was about the third or fourth one where they took the biopsies and then got called straight back in the next day thinking, well, that's not right. Why am I, you know, they said, well, wait 2 weeks, you get the results. And then a day later I was back in for the results, and then sat in a room with just me and the doctor, and, you know, he broke the bad news to me that, you know, I had bowel cancer. So it was a dark day. It was tough. Obviously I couldn't go with anyone. Well, it wasn't so much I didn't go with anyone, but it was not knowing that's what he was going to tell me. So it was like, you know, I'm just going to go, you've got inflammation in your bowel, you've got inflammation in your stomach. And then it was, no, you've got bowel cancer. And it's like, well, if I knew that was going to be the outcome, I'd have probably, you know, brought my mum, brought my family and stuff.
And what age were you at that point?
I was 26 when I got diagnosed. So yeah, quite young.
26 when you got diagnosed with bowel cancer, but you there were issues in the background kind of running up to that stage?
Yeah, so we go way back to when I was sort of 15 and had a blood clot in my lung. And that's when sort of like my colitis, inflammation in my stomach and the bowel started. And the doctor actually said to me at the time, he said, you'll never play football again. So, you know, once the blood clot in the lung got sorted and was absolutely fine, I sort of ignored my symptoms. Just because of that one comment, you'll never play football again. And I know, you know, not everyone is going to play football, but I think when someone tells you you're not going to do what you love doing and what you always dreamt of doing, that's the only reason I hid it. Did I know the extent of if it was, you know, if I hide it for too long or if the symptoms carry on, did I know it was going to turn into bowel cancer? No. So yeah. Is
there a wee bit of regret you feel now? Like, do you feel you kind of did push it to the side a wee bit, or?
I don't regret it as such. You know, I probably could have done different things, and, you know, probably could have looked after my diet in different ways. I tried all different types of diets to keep the symptoms down. You know, I went gluten-free, I went celiac, and I cut out caffeine, cut out fizzy drink, sugar, this, that, and the other, you name it, and nothing helped. So I don't regret it, but definitely looking back, that if I didn't have that blood clot in my leg, that I would never have probably got the tests I needed to find out that I had the bowel cancer. So I do think the blood clot in my leg ultimately saved my life, because I probably would just carry on ignoring these symptoms until it was too late.
That's unbelievable. And how did you feel? I'm sorry if this is difficult to discuss, but taking you back at that stage when you thought you were just kind of going for a kind of routine appointment at that stage, how did you feel when you actually got the news?
I literally remember him saying cancer, and that was it. Like, just switched off from, I can't remember what else he said. Everything just went sort of numb and just dark in the room. It was just, you switch off because, you know, I think there's a big persona around the word cancer. Everyone, you know, relates it to bad outcomes, and that was definitely in the back of my mind. You know, am I gonna live? Am I gonna, you know, stay alive? And that was a real scary moment in my life.
And in terms of when you were going through that, how did you process it? Did you reach out to people? Did you speak to friends, family? Or was it a case of just you had to work it out yourself first? What was your process?
I remember leaving the hospital after, you know, many tears. You know, I was probably in there a couple hours. The whole doctor had come across and met me and took me for a coffee and tried to reassure me as much as possible. But it weren't until I sort of left and was on my own, and I was actually driving back down south, so I had 4 hours in the car on my own. And that's when, I think I even pulled over at services and just sat there and I don't even know what I thought. It was just sort of looking to the distance, and just my mind was blank, and it was just a really lonely time. But I think I've said this to you before, I didn't want to feel like I was a burden on anyone. I didn't want to tell my family straight away. I didn't want to tell my mum and dad, because I know they'd be, worried, upset. So sort of the first 3 or 4 days, I was completely shut off from everyone and just dealt with it on my own, which probably wasn't a good thing.
And how did you feel when you then did go and speak to someone and start kind of sharing the information?
I felt better. It was probably the hardest part of the whole journey was definitely going home and telling my family. That was the hardest part. But myself, how I felt was, I'm going to get through this. Once I spoke to the doctors, once I spoke to a few more people, it really encouraged me that I was going to get through this. The operation would go okay, and hopefully I can get back to playing football. I know when, everyone says, when you get that sort of diagnosis that, there's more important things in life than football. But one of the most important things in my life is football. It was sort of like a catch-22, like I know I'll be healthier after the operation, but in my mind it was more of a mindset to get back to playing football. That was my aim, and that was my goal. So it really did help speaking to more people and getting that encouragement from them, and specialists and people like Clan. There was Weston Park up in Sheffield that I went and spoke to, and so reassuring that we've caught it early. This should catching it early should be absolutely fine afterwards.
And when you were at that stage of maybe kind of taking it in and thinking about the next stages, how were you feeling about football, and did you just try and keep things going? Did you speak to your teammates about it? How was it?
I got loads of messages when the news broke. I took myself away. I went on holiday, and the news broke when I was away, which was quite nice because I turned my phone off. But then, when I finally turned it on and there was hundreds of messages, it was nice to read through that so many people are supporting you. But knowing that my operation, or the first operation, was coming up, it was sort of, I did switch off from football completely, and it wasn't so much the mindset and the aim of to get back to playing. It was right, let's get over this first hurdle, let's get over this first operation first, and then we can look to see what's next.
And where are you now in your cancer journey?
All clear. I got the all clear. Actually, I think I got the all clear 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. It hadn't spread into my lymph nodes, hadn't spread anywhere else, and by having the operation, by cutting it out, I was all clear. So 3.5 years down the line, I'm now back playing football, back doing what I love doing, and as healthy as I've, probably this is the healthiest I have been in my whole life.
And so it's now, we're coming up to Bowel Cancer Awareness Month. You're here at Clan. What would your message be to anyone who's maybe thinking something's not quite right, but they're kind of hanging off, seeking professional advice? What would your message be just now?
Get checked as soon as possible, because I know that's a cliche thing probably to say, get checked as soon as possible, but if I'd have left it any later, or if I'd have left it months down the line, years down the line, my journey wouldn't have been as easy. It wouldn't have been as simple. It might not have just been 2 operations and no chemo and radio. It might have, I might not be here. So my message would be, get checked as soon as possible. There's no worries, there's support around you, from your loved ones, from people at Clan. So yeah, just get checked as soon as possible. Absolutely.
And we're so grateful that you, as soon as you came to Aberdeen Football Club, you were keen to engage with a local cancer support charity, and so pleased that you chose Clan. What kind of role do you think organisations like Clan play in people who are going through a cancer diagnosis, his life?
Massive. It just shows that you aren't alone. If you're going through a journey, a treatment, that you can come in places like Clan, and you can have that support network to come and have a cup, whether it's just a coffee, whether it's a chat, and it's it makes a massive difference for people that probably feel so low and can't get any lower, that you can pick them up for an hour during the day, and they might leave happier, they might leave a bit more reassured, and you know, just take the weight off.
And at what point did you decide, you know, I want to do this, I want to kind of use my position and my platform to raise awareness about the importance of early detection, for example?
It was when I was led in bed in the hospital after my first operation. I was in there for 10 days, so you got a lot of time to sit and think and, you know, stare at four walls. So it was like, you know, I'm lucky, like you said, I have a bigger platform than sort of most people to try and hit more target audience. So I was like, I could really make a difference and try and help as many people as possible, make their journey easier. And I know it's never easy, but, you know, shorter or whatever it may be, you know, just to help as much as possible.
And when you came to Clan, how did you feel when you kind of walked through the building and got a sense of what the charity's about?
Very welcomed, very relaxed. You know, there's great things going on here. You know, you've got a great building, great facilities. You know, that helps, because sometimes you're sat in a waiting room in hospitals and not always the nicest of places. You've got, you know, sick and ill people around you, so it's nice to come in here, and it was sort of walking into a breath of fresh air. You know, you've got the great hotel facilities as well, you know, if you're travelling from far and stuff, and that's, you know, I've not seen that in other places that I've been before.
Great. And in terms of, you mentioned that you were supported by a charity when you were going through your diagnosis. How helpful was it for you to have that outlet at that time?
Well, it wasn't actually till after I'd come through my second operation that I realised that there was a charity to support me as such. So that's why sort of when I moved here, it was like, not everyone knows that there's places like Clan. You know, I'd have, you know, been at the Sheffield Hospital as much as I was, I would have loved to just come out of the hospital and come for a coffee in a nice environment, instead of being stuck up in a waiting room, sat there for hours, not knowing when you're going to get seen. So that's really, you know, hopefully that can raise awareness for you guys to tell you that people are here to help. So yeah, if I'd have realised that there was somewhere like Clan to come and get away from the waiting rooms in the hospital, to come and have a coffee, to come take the weight off, then, you know, that would have been fantastic. And I think there's so many people out there that don't realise that the support is there for them. So yeah, being 26, professional footballer, I don't think anyone would have thought that, you know, I'd have been diagnosed with bowel cancer. But it just goes to show that this can affect anyone at all ages. But my message would be definitely tackle this head on. There's so much support out there for you, and it might not be as bad as what you're thinking, but the unknown symptoms, the unknown of what it could be, will probably end up being worse if you leave it.
In your own words, just how would you like to work with Clan going forward?
People, more so when you're younger, probably won't want to talk about what symptoms they have. So just to really get involved, make it fun, make it not all doom and gloom, because sometimes that's, you know, ultimately what it is. So if we can shine a bit of light on someone's day, brighten up their day a little bit, then yeah, definitely.